welcome everyone to another video. Today I want to go over the two top KvK'S on G2 pool, which we already know the teams, they've been announced the enemies, and I think I'm just gonna go over the top two because otherwise the video takes too long to go over all the things that I want to check and say. For this video I'm gonna do two things, which is one, I'm gonna use Call of Stats to check in-depth data such as mana spent, gems spent, power, T5 kills, etc. And then I'm gonna use Kim Yami leaderboard to mash up them together and to be able to see, like, in a more illustrated way exactly how the teams are doing. And at that point I will make my bets on who's gonna win. But I can already tell you, on the second KvK I'm really struggling to decide who do I think is gonna win. Now, before all of that, I gotta showcase the teams, and I'm gonna give the thanks to Kelly from News, which probably is the only remaining worker in there because Untouched is like a lazy bomb and disappeared, but yeah, I'm gonna show it now. So here we have the post of from Kelly, News, and we can see hot section, W versus EIS, the battle of the century. Will the B tiers allies decide who wins this KvK, or will be the punching power of WB be enough to take home the victory? And the second KvK is gonna be 25AW versus Echo. Okay, now I gotta say I'm really hyped more than due to 25AW because of TFS. TFS is in the camp with 25AW. From what I heard, Jason and Sod have never fought each other in a KvK since the split, so I think this is gonna be really insane and a break, or like, yeah, I think this might break some kingdom. But yeah, this is the two KvKs I'm gonna cover. I really want to cover this one too. Okay, I'm covering three. I'm gonna cover the BTX versus WAO 2-1. Okay, so we're gonna go over the data right now. So here we have EIS server, okay, 176. I'm gonna go over a bit quickly because then we can download the spreadsheet with more detailed info. Merit support ratio 18.48, total power of the kingdom around 33 bill power, which is absolutely insane. Okay, here we can see some of the resources spent, and here we have the same for WB. I'm gonna put this at 30 mil, so any farms don't really. I wish I could go higher, but yeah. Merit support ratio 22.9%, so we can already start seeing a huge. I mean, okay, fair, not a huge lead. Okay, a substantial lead on the W side. Total power, I mean, pretty much they're super equal. Okay, total T5 kills, were those here. We can see small increase on EIS side, but really negligible, to be honest. Like, they're pretty much equal. Resource spent, I think here is where we can see a bit of them, you know, like 700 bill extra gold is starting to be noticeable. Okay, same for the wood, same for the ore, and only 300 bill for mana, which is not as huge as the gold difference. Let me see something. See, this is interesting because when you see an increase on gold spent and total wood spent larger than ore spent and mana spent, it could mean that WB has more infantry players, because if we remember this, infantry heals through gold, wood, and mana. Okay, they don't use ore. So it's actually interesting to see. But yeah, let me show you more in detailed data. So here we have the two spreadsheets. Let me see exactly. This is WB and this is EIS. If we check current power of the players, who's their highest power player, we have Extinct on WB at 468 mil power, which is absolutely insane. And for EIS side we have Kvks Tempur at 451 mil power, with his historical highest power at 505, and the historical highest power of Extinct at 581 mil, which is absolutely insane. Okay, I want you to remember this Korean guy because he's actually, like, it makes no sense how good the stats of this guy is. By the way, look at the Lord AD. Okay, we check those. Okay, he has an extra digit, same for Angry Jack. So these are fairly newer players that are absolutely whales. Okay, now some other interesting stuff is to see the total merits achieved by those players. Now we gotta remember last season EIS has had way less fighting than WB, so here you can see a huge increase. TSGM at 444 mil merits, absolute monster, okay. And here you can see, I mean, with her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players above 100 mil merits, while EIS has none, and the closest one is Mr. Sky at 93 mil merits. We check merits to power ratio. Oops. Okay, there we go. And here we can see Angry Chen almost at 50% merits to power ratio, farming done at 50%. The weird thing is I don't think I ever heard of this guy, so that's a bit weird that, like, and look at the merits total, it's 56. I'm more impressed, for example, by Kelly, who pulls 150 mil merits, almost half the power in merits, absolutely insane. More things I want to show, it's 2 more, which is mana spent. Here we have a, like, oopsies, we have a substantial difference, not gonna lie, on the mana spent on their top players. Can you, like, stop? Thank you. Okay, so if we check the mana spent, and again we need to remember the type of season each side had. Look at these, 3 players were 50 bill mana spent versus only 1 player at 40 bill, everyone else at 35, which seems to be a really common number for whales. Although look at this, EIS has more players on the 30 to 35 bill range versus WB, which has 2, which this tends me to believe that WB, the very top, like I'm talking top 5 to 10 players, they are way heavier than EIS, but that maybe EIS overall has like stronger players. And I like, just a final note, here we can see this Kvks tempo at 38 mil gems spent, okay? Like, that's a crazy amount, and look at the gap for the next one. But when you check WB, the Korean guy, this Korean guy is at 53 million, almost 54 million gems spent. It makes no sense the amount of gems he spent. He's probably training troops with gems. It's like, these guys, like everyone, even the 20 mil gems spent guys, they have max accounts, they have all the Heroes Awaken, Artifacts max, Simple Wishes, so where do they spend gems, except for new heroes? Literally, I think they just train troops with them. Like 54 mil gems is insane. Now we're gonna move to the King Yami dashboard to see this matchup way clearer. So here we have the matchup on the King Yami's dashboard. I think it's really cool, the setup that he has, how it's structured and everything. So you can see total power of EIS team is 64.7 bill power, battle ready accounts, which is 50 mil plus accounts, is 423, and the average power is 137, let's say, mil power, versus 65.8 bill power from the WB side, which is a 1.1 increase in power, 562 accounts above 50 mil power, which this is a huge gap. It's almost 100 more accounts at that range, which I think is huge. But the average power though is low, so that tells you that some of these accounts will really be at the range of 50 to 70 mil power, for example. So overall, I think it's pretty average, although here it says it's very imbalanced. I think this needs some tweaking. It's still in beta, as you can see. But yeah, like, pretty much equal power. WB side has way more active accounts, let's say, or PvP ready accounts, while the EIS accounts overall seems to be more like stronger. Now we're gonna say create match, and this is gonna bring us some of the data that we've seen already and some more. So we can see the total power of the teams. Look at rage, for example. I think like the KvK depends in huge part on them. Is if you can see they are only at 15.2 bill and only have 110 accounts, okay? They only have 110 accounts above 50 mil. But if we check the average power is 140 mil, which is really huge. Look at SCL, for example. They have 53 more accounts, yet their average power is way lower. Same goes for POD, same goes for BPA, okay? So Rage needs to really be active, because the issue is every single one of these accounts that has like huge average power, like if you don't use that account for fighting, it's way like you feel that way more than if it's one of the 50 mil accounts, for example, from POD or BPA. Okay, so huge weight is on Rage's shoulders to make sure every single one of these accounts is active, because if you don't have many, at least you need to make sure every single one is active. Then we have SCL, one of the new kingdoms. I think it's fair to still call them new in Season of Strife with the top dogs, to be honest. At almost 100 mil average power. Then we have POD at 84, so they seem to be the lowest in terms of account power. We can see they have 17.3 bill, but they have 204 members. So we can expect huge activity from POD, but those accounts will probably run out of resources faster and will not be hitting as hard as like a Rage account, for example, or even a BPA account. Some other interesting stuff is, look at the mana spent, 1.8 trillion for EIS versus 2 trillion for W as a wall, which is pretty even, to be honest. Like, again, I think, yes, a 200 bill difference is substantial, but I do believe EIS can like pull those numbers up and just be pretty much on the same page. Now, if we check the mana spent for the other teams, insane. Rage and SCL are pretty much equal, and POD has higher, like really good, to be honest, almost 1 bill, but BPA is a bit lower. And this for me is really weird and kind of sparks me a bit of a, does BPA, for example, have some dead weight that they did not clear out? How accounts with higher average power, which means like more troops, usually kind of you can correlate it to more spending, okay? And as you can see, even have a 300 mil plus player, they have less mana spent than a POD, for example. This for me makes no sense, okay? Either they had really free KvK'S and they didn't really have to go super hard, or this is a bit weird. And then here you can see the average mana, huge difference for WB, like 1.1 bill extra on average is huge. And then you can see Rage at 7.1 versus those two. So again, if we check at the T5 kills, a small lead by EIS, Rage pulling big numbers, but POD and BPA and SCL a bit far behind. So if I'm seeing this, like the numbers are telling me that WB holds more weight on their team than EIS on theirs, mainly because of Rage, to be honest. Like Rage helps to compensate some of those stats compared to the WB allies, but again, we need to remember Rage literally comes from winning a season, and still they lost pretty much all their merch side with SSG, which that to me sparks that like things are not really smooth inside the Rage. Then you have WB, who has proven themselves on a 1v1 versus Echo. Okay, they did not win the zone, but they still proved that they can hold Echo at some like to a certain degree, and that they have the resources to really be like face to face with Echo. EIS, for example, still needs to prove that, because they haven't gone in like a 1v1 in one of those zones and either win or be able to say, I still hold some ground in that zone because my players were able to resource heal non-stop. If you check the 300 mil plus, WB has 17 versus 12. I think from this matchup, I'm gonna give the win to the WB side for two main reasons. One, Rage, although has really good stats, is going through some stuff right now. Maybe they fix it and maybe I'm wrong, but I think like losing, like if you lose a KvK and you lose part of your allies or your merch, sure, maybe it didn't work. But if you're winning, you're getting Dragon, and like still SSG decided to move away and go to WB, literally who you're facing, that sparks me a bit that there's some internal problems that are not being solved in Rage. Apart from that, every single account in here needs to be active. They hold a lot of weight in the total value of the ES account, and from what I heard, Rage have some players that are not really active, okay? Although they might have the stats from past seasons, some of their players, because of like how long they've been playing, seem to be a bit less active, okay? So I think I'm gonna give WB the win in this KvK, but again, I think it's really gonna be close. Now, next KvK, It's going to be 25 IL TFS Lion versus Echo 404 Bear. I'm really excited for this KvK because I really want to see Jason and Sod go at it after they split each other. Jason accuses Sod of stealing their like his alliance and his members. Like, it's gonna be a beefy KvK. So we have 25 IL here at 23.8 build power, but we have Echo at almost 30 build power, okay? Which is a huge difference. So if you already see this from the get-go, you can see that Echo holds insane weight on the overall camp stats compared to 25 IL, okay? You can see here, for example, TFS has a 6 build lead on 404, and Lion has a, well, let's say 2 build power advantage over Bear, okay? Now this doesn't mean Echoes like these guys are gonna win, or these guys, but we can see that the weight distribution in the 25 IL camp is more even than in the Echo camp. Now we see the amount of battle ready accounts. We can see that Echo has 167 accounts total, and every single one of those is PvP ready. Same for 404, 112 accounts, all of those are active, same for Bear, okay? Now, let's see a bit of the average power. 160 mil for 25 IL, 140 mil for TFS. So we can see TFS doesn't have that many accounts, but the accounts that they have are really stacked, okay? Like, we know some of their players, really good accounts, even better than literally their A-team, okay? And then we have Lion at 100 mil average power, which is a bit lower, but not by much. And I think 100 mil average power is still completely fine for this type of KvK if you have the resources. On the other hand, we have Echo at 176 mil average power. That's insane, and that's like speaks volumes of the amount of troops that Echo have. Okay, they are 30 mil power with not even a full alliance. Okay, like this is one of the big factors, which is Echo. Like, the quality of Echo accounts is through the roof, and that's gonna play a big part in this KvK. We have 404 at 101 mil average power, which for being the smallest team is really good, and speaks volumes of how good some of the accounts that this alliance currently have. And then you have Bear at 90 mil, a bit too low for my liking, to be honest, but still I think it's kinda doable because Echo kinda compensates that average power. Now we check average mana. We can see 5.6 bill from 25 IL, 6.8 bill by TFS. Again, we're seeing one of the big teams, which is TFS, having some of these stats that showcase how hard they fight a bit higher than the A team, which I think it's not really a good sign. And then we have Lion at 4.4 bill, mana spend 1.1 trillion, TFS 833 billion. But again, look at the amount of accounts. 204 accounts spend 1.1 trillion, 123 accounts spend only 2 to 300 bill less mana. This is something that we already saw in last KvK of EIS versus Echo, where 25 IL has an issue, which is they have lots of players, but their accounts cannot sustain for long term the attrition war. So this is a point in favor of Echo that they have, which is their accounts are able to sustain those like intense 24, 48 hours of PvP non-stop. If we check Echo's side though, we can see 1.8 trillion, which is an insane difference. It is almost the combined value of 25 IL and TFS together. 404 at 458 bill, which I think this is on the lower end, like really low end, to be honest. But again, this is a newly formed kingdom, so they still need time to grow, get more recruits, and they have like way less players than, I mean, not many less than TFS, but I think this is still a bit low. This needs to be increased. Then you have Bear at 154 players, almost the same. Not really a good sign because, like, again, you have, what is it, 42 less players, and literally they have almost the same mana spend than you. You see, like, on average, their players spend more mana than Bear ones. This one is really tricky, and I'm gonna explain why. In one hand, you have a team which is way more evenly distributed, okay? Their A team's weaker, clearly, to be honest, but they have a B team that like, let's be honest, TFS has been an A kingdom for like a long time, okay? Like, they have the accounts to be an A team. They just don't have the amount of members to be an A team, which I think kind of compensates a bit for the insane value that Echo brings. But again, if you need your 1A and 1B to compensate for one enemy A, then the other two enemy Bs can go against the other B. And although Lion, I think, can take easily, for example, on Bear on 1v1, or even probably 404, I think the power combined of 404 and Bear together versus Lion, I think Lion is on the back foot. So it's a really tricky kingdom. I think the key in this kingdom is for Echo to not break. Because the issue is when you hold so much power, if your players start breaking, if your morale is low, you're literally the winning or the losing factor in the KvK. I'm not sure on how to give the win on this KvK. I just see it too even. I just think, like, again, vulnerability of Echo's side is Echo. If their players like are not enjoying the KvK or are not logging in, that's pretty much a death sentence. Versus if 25IL, for example, doesn't do that, then still TFS could, like, you know, absorb some of that negativity and like bring it up with their account quality, which 404 or Bear cannot do. So in this one, I'm not sure who to bet on, to be honest. Like, if I were betting in terms of, like, probably maybe I give 51% that 25IL side wins, mainly because it's more stable than what I see on this side, which is way more one-sided side and depending on Echo. But I know Echo and I know the strength they have. I don't know who's gonna win that, to be honest. Like, this is for me is maximum gamble. Now let's go to quickly the BTX versus WAO one, because I really want to do that one. Okay, this is the third team or third KvK, which is WAO, Illuminati, GRZ, I don't know who they are, versus BTX, Down to Fight, and MFS. Okay, here we have some of the data. Total members 50 mil plus is 387 for them, and 50 mil plus for Team B, BTX mainly. By mainly I mean the BTX team, 359. Okay, so total power of WAO is 24 bill versus 27.4 bill of BTX. Illuminati is sitting at 10 bill power versus DTF at 9.8, and MFS is at 10 bill power. GRZ is at 9.7 bill. Now, battle ready accounts, we can see DTF has 80, Illuminati has 91, WAO has 176, BTX has 164, GRZ has 120 versus MFS 150. This should already tell you something. The fact that the WAO is at 24 bill power versus 27.4 and they have 12 less accounts already starts telling you how big the accounts in TFS are. Okay, now let's check KvK'S. 57.9 bill kills for WAO, 57.3 bills by BTX, which I'm surprised on this. I thought BTX will have more. Illuminati at 14.2 bill versus 14.3 bill for DTF, and GRZ at 8.2 bill versus MFS 6 bill. Mana spent 1.4 trillion by WAO, 1.3 trillion by BTX, pretty even. 458 bill by Illuminati, 382 bill by DTF, 521 by GRZ, 365 bill by MFS. Now, if we check the average power on the accounts, we can see that like substantial increase in the BTX side. Like, we know they have, like, look, they have 9 accounts over 300 mil power. They have Bolty, they have insane players. 110 mil power by Illuminati versus 122 versus by DTF, and 81 mil power on GRZ versus 86. Now, this is really an even match, although look at the total power of the camps. Clearly, like, 5 mil difference is no joke in here. I'm gonna give you a bit of an insider side. I was in Illuminati and I fought against DTF. The reason I call them down to flee is because the season we played against them, they literally ran away, they literally dodged us every single fight, which already tells me, unless they change a lot, which I doubt, to be honest, Illuminati can literally take down one-on-one DTF, no problem at all. Like, it wasn't even close, okay? Illuminati has really good players, has one of the highest merits to power ratio of any other alliance. The only issue is they are a low kingdom, like they have a low amount of players, okay? I'm gonna say they have huge downtime that comes with only having 91 accounts, okay? but when the uptime comes, there's lots of coordinations. The shot calling, the ward calling is really good. I expect the same from WoW. I know they're already starting to coordinate each other. So that's my insider information. I know these two teams will work really well. Tiny can work call, WoW work callers can do the same. Like, I think they really will work together good. That's gonna be an extra synergy. I know some of the accounts in Illuminati, they are stacked with resources. I'm talking billions and billions of resources, okay? Now, the issue with DTF is that they play for 2 hours a day, okay? I think, like, again, unless they change hardly, they had like a 5 to 7 p.m. uptime, and then they disappeared. And their biggest player, which is probably this 300 mil plus player, pretty much has 5 presets of every single troop type, TPs on the front line, starts cycling through the presets non-stop for a few hours, drops all their troops, then leaves. I gotta say, it still hurts a lot because it's a massive whale, has really good account, but it's not the optimal thing to do with your troops, as everyone knows, okay? Like, 5 bombing is fun, but like, you're not doing the best for your team, especially, like, again, you're taking all your AoE damage, or all artifact damage, so yeah. MFS, GRC, Z, I have no clue who they are, so power-wise, too close, don't really care. 5 more, again, they're pretty even. 75 mil plus, they have 57 versus 80, so that's an advantage to MFS. But, I mean, yeah, like, slight advantage to MFS in terms of account power. Now, I think one of the big differences, though, is the amount of mana spent, which this gives the lead to GRZ. 521 bill versus 365 bill, which is really, really low. And then they have average mana 4.3 bill versus 3.2 bill. Count average power 5 mil up and down, pretty close. For this team, I'm gonna give the win to Illuminati and WoW. The main reason is because I know the teams on both sides, they are way better spread out in terms of, like, this team really depends on BTX, on borderline like doing a 1v2, something crazy like that, okay? The other teams are looking really even. Illuminati already crashed DTF, already proved them, like, that they can literally take them one-on-one, no problem at all. The advantage that BTX has is the quality of the accounts that they have inside, like Boti, etc. That guy can literally cover 3 different bastions with the amount of 3-star pets he has, and the amount of mana the top hitters can have. But again, WoW is no joke neither. So I'm gonna give the win here to the WoW Illuminati side, but it's gonna be mainly due to the big kingdoms rather than the A's. I think BTX can take one-on-one on WoW. That's my personal opinion. Although I love WoW, I'm just being realistic. I think BTX can take one-on-one on them, but I think the B's, especially Illuminati versus DTF, Illuminati should win, and GRZ versus MFS. Although MFS seems to have slightly higher quality account, the mana spent of GRZ, they either train a lot of troops or or do weird things with mana, or they actually fight, and I'm inclined to believe they fight. So yeah, catch you in the next one.